The views expressed and the opinions given by their guests do not necessarily reflect those of the Odyssey Files hosts, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
This is Susan Slaughter from Paranormal Caught on Camera, introducing you to the most epic show ever, The Odyssey Files with David Soyering and Michael O'Neill. You're welcome. Pew, 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 pew.
Oh!
Kim, what are you doing?
Well, I'm telling Mike and Dave, it's time to get on the show.
Oh, well, the Odyssey Files starts now.
Good evening, paranormal community. It is 7 o'clock Central Time, which means you are watching, or maybe listening later, to the Odyssey Files. I'm your host, Michael O'Neill. With me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. David Soyering. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Mike. How are you on this beautiful Monday?
Excited.
Me too.
Do you know why?
Well, we're a week away from 4th of July, so that's exciting.
Nope.
We've got great guests on tonight, so that's exciting.
Yes, there you go.
I know I had it in the top 3. So
only the same. So these great ladies from the Paranormal Investigators of North Dakota are going to be on for the entire show and are sitting very patiently in the backstage area, ready to go. And so if they are ready, everybody scooch together. We will bring them in.
Stephanie, there we go.
Good.
Sort of here. Hello.
Good evening, ladies. How are you?
We are good.
Why don't you, since one of your names I know I'm going to hack, so I'm just going to have you guys introduce yourselves.
I'm Stephanie, co-founder.
Wendy, co-founder.
Leilani, the name you can't pronounce.
You are 100% correct.
And I am Brenda, investigator extraordinaire.
Yeah.
I think that just goes for all of you ladies.
Yeah. We do our best. We try.
So you guys are actually at a very specific location. Can you tell us kind of where you are and why this location is special for you guys?
Well, this is one of our favorite locations in downtown Minot. We are from North Dakota. It is the Urban Winery. The owner is Eric Hansen, and he does a phenomenal job. He does original artwork inspired by a lot of celebrities. Plus, you can come and create your own wine. He has a bottling shop in the back where you actually create your own wine. And I'm completely murdering this. Hey, Eric, you want to come say hi and spiel yourself real quick? I'm like, he does cool stuff, and it's also haunted here. Here, and look.
I was gonna say. I hope that you actually have wine.
I was gonna say, where's the wine at? Yeah, you gotta have wine if you're at a winery.
Absolutely.
Eric, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. This is, yeah, we've had a couple of investigations here. Actually had a little activity today. I pick up orbs and I get alerts from my security cameras, actually just one specifically in my office. So the group has been in here to investigate a couple of times. Nothing ominous unless you go in the basement.
Yeah, it's a little different down there.
A little different.
Is this the like something's there and it likes to hide downstairs and it doesn't want you down there, so it makes you run back upstairs kind of situation that's going on?
Yeah, you kind of get the creepy crawlies in the basement. Up
Like
here, it's a little different. It's
Yeah.
a little more happy, like they're here to drink wine.
Yeah. Do you think that that's kind of why the spirits are there, or do you think that they have some sort of history with the location?
I definitely think there's some history with the location. I think we discovered a little bit of that when we did the investigation.
Yep.
And it's got a sordid past. It was a speakeasy. The basement was a speakeasy back in the days of Prohibition. A little bit of violence, a little bit of human trafficking. So there's definitely history with the location, and I think that's a huge part of it.
I would agree.
Nice.
Speakeasy, prostitution, and Fight Club all go hand in hand with.
And now wine.
Right.
Well, why?
Yeah.
Spirit.
And spirits, right? Liquid spirits. Right.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, oh, you make my eyes itch. Oh, can't believe you went there. So I do definitely want to hear about the winery as the interview goes on, but I need to talk to the ladies because that's why we're here.
Okay, I'm going to step away.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for
Thank
hosting
you.
us tonight, Eric. And the wine, definitely.
Oh, definitely the wine. I guess with you, I'm going to say I always call it Minot. I know that's wrong.
No,
No, correct.
Oh, that's correct. I thought you said it a little differently earlier. Okay, well then I'm saying it right. So, with you being from Minot, what exactly got you involved in the paranormal? I mean, and this is for all of you.
I would say past experiences, all of us, like experiences growing up when we were children, and at the point of sometimes some people would make us feel crazy. And then like our goal is to help those who are here and those who have passed. So it's kind of how we all got into it, is that we just grew up around it.
Yep, and for me, I experienced spirits coming to my bedside. Family members that had passed come to my bedside the night that they basically move on. And then they're like, oh, Grandma, hey, how are you? And they're like, well, I'm going to leave now. I'm going to go on to the other side. I'm like, okay, just kind of there for the night, telling me that they're going to move on. And the next morning I'd hear a phone call, my mom answering the phone, and she'd come knock on the door. She'd open the door and she'd look at me and she's like, oh, you already know, don't you? And I was like, oh yeah, Grandma Hanson or Grandma whoever, Grandpa would, pass. They came in and said goodnight. So I've always been open to it. As young as 3, I can remember spirits kind of interacting and communicating. So
My grandpa did that to me.
yeah.
I was about 3-4 years old. He came and sat on my bed and held my hand, and we had a conversation. And then he said, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. I'm okay. Everything's good. And I couldn't I'm like, well, okay. It's kind of strange that Grandpa stopped by tonight, and I laid back down in bed and went back to sleep and woke up in the morning and everybody was crying.
Yep.
So, yeah. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Just sharing a little continuity there. It's like similar experiences.
Good to get experience those things. Nani?
Just for me, just same as Stephanie, just, kind of growing up with it, or just knowing that something's there, or you feel weird, you're the weird one. But I just, like knowing that we're helping people. So.
For me, I would say that I've had some past experiences, not so much when I was younger, but I do believe that people in my family were intuitive, and I think some of that is passed on to some of us in the family. My big thing is I have a religious background, and so I truly believe in the higher power and the lower power and everything in between. So my quest is to always get a handle on that and see if I can use our tools to try and prove that, not only to myself, but others.
So, sorry, Dave, go ahead.
I was going to say, so just kind of a quick follow-up question. So now that you've kind of listed your goals as to what got you into the paranormal, why you're there, I guess a good follow-up question would be, do you feel like you've accomplished some of the things that you set out for when you first got into the field?
Absolutely.
Like some of your personal goals, like this is why I'm entering. I want an answer for this type of thing. I mean, have you, and it sounds like you've achieved that. Can you give me an example of like what one of your goals, if it's a personal goal and you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But if it's just like a general thing, like, hey, I really wanted to prove that it wasn't just me that saw this. I wanted to be able to show somebody else. And you, let's say you caught an apparition, like a great photo, and you shared it with that person or something like that.
Yeah, so a great experience is something that happened with a former member, and Stephanie and myself and Michael Christopher, who's an evidential medium who works with us. We got a phone call from a female who was having activity in her home. We always try and meet at a general location open to the public. That way, you never know who's going to contact you. They may be just a little bit, a little bit more challenging than others. We'll put it that way. So we'll try and get a good ground basis of what they're expecting out of an investigation and what we're going to bring to the investigation. And at the meeting with her, she definitely broke down. We could tell that she definitely had some things that she needed to deal with. So we set up an investigation. When we were there, it was very active. Things were going on. Michael Christopher picked up on some things, past history, some trauma that she experienced as a child. And we noticed that as soon as she had left, the energy shifted, and it was very calm in the house. So we did have Stephanie and one of the other co-members. You want to talk about the clearing?
We went in and we actually did a clearing on our house with her in the house. And there was one specific room that was very, it did not want us there with her in the house. And it took both of us in the same room to try to clear some of that negative energy out. And we did a clearing on her, and we gave her some information, like some additional information if she needed help, like professional help. And we're like, we're going to give this to you, do with it what you will, but I think that it will be better from now on. And we left, and she was very grateful. And then a few months later,
I was shopping at Target, COVID masks on, and going through the dog food aisle, and all of a sudden a lady comes up behind me. Wait a minute, you're the paranormal Reiki lady. I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, turning around, and she was like, oh, I just want to say that since you guys came to my house, you have helped me so much. I've done a complete turnaround. A lot of the crutches that she held, which were causing a lot of the issues in her life, and the paranormal stirring that she had shifted all that energy. She was seeing a counselor. She had actually moved out of state, and she said that her life had completely changed by going through this experience with us. So that is definitely an emotional, you're nothing like you're welcome, pushing your, down the dog aisle with your cart and like starting to bawl into your mask, because that's really what we're here for, to help those that have passed and those that are living. And if we can do that, that's what we're here for.
Cool. It's a great story.
So I have two
Great
questions
experience.
now. It is a great experience. So the one that I had prior to this, and then we'll come back to your story, because I have a question for that one too. I know a couple of you have mentioned, when you were younger and you had these experiences, you were like the weird one, or you felt people made you feel like you were crazy. With you being paranormal investigators now, obviously you're adults, and now that the paranormal has kind of been pushed into the mainstream, do you think it's easier now to talk about the supernatural, to talk about aliens, to talk about Sasquatch, as opposed to then? Or do you think that just because, you're now part of the field, you're like, screw it, who cares what they think?
My perspective, I'm one of the older ones in the group. So growing up in very small town mine at North Dakota in the 80s, and you start talking about, seeing a demon or, hearing ghosts and spirits and stuff. Yeah, I was pretty much like, oh, you're a witch and we're going to burn you at stake. But because things have shifted since, Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters and all those guys have made it more broad range accessible and more acceptable. Yeah, I think it's definitely changed the perspectives of the world, that it's not just devil worshippers in the attic trying to conjure up things. So yeah, I think it's definitely shifted. Anybody else?
For me, it just depends on where you go, because I'm from super small town, North Dakota. There was 17 kids in my graduating class, and we had 3 towns put together.
Wow. That's small town.
Yeah, very.
That's a small town when you gotta invite the neighbors to come over for a graduation ceremony.
Yep. We always said if you walk outside and you don't remember what you're doing, ask your neighbors because they're probably watching you. So
there you go.
Like when I go back home, I tend not to talk about it because everyone is very old-fashioned and set in their ways back home. Not saying that's a bad thing or anything, but you kind of know who you can talk to about that kind of stuff. But yeah, it just depends on where you go for me. Here's my ad.
I totally agree with what Stephanie's saying. I have a brother who's a very strict Catholic, and he still to this day does not know what I do as far as this goes because he would probably judge me in a harsh way. So I don't talk about it. I generally just keep it to myself and to the friends that I have. So.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry. Did you want to go?
No, I just agree with Brenda that being a man of God myself, there's a line there where you have to kind of weigh out what you're going to do and you know what you're going to say. And I've already been through it, so I've been doing this for a long time, and so I've been there. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yep.
You know, it's the thing that I got over was that it's important to me, and it's something that has kind of directed my entire life. So I kind of let go of that cord of I'm worried about what so-and-so is going to think of me or what so-and-so is going to say of me. And it helped me move on in other ways that I didn't expect it to.
That's a good thing for me to learn. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if that's maybe somewhere down the road, you can let that happen for yourself and you might see this great change, or just get it out there and maybe he won't judge you. You know, it's hard to say, you know, but I went through the exact same thing. So I know exactly where you're at. Look at that. Similarities with you and I, similarities with seeing our grandparents come visit us when they passed away when we were Jesus. We got a lot of stuff in common. Must be the neighboring state thing going on.
Yeah, sure, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Got to go check the hot dish.
Oh yeah.
No, Lutefisk. No.
No. Just no. Did you have some?
Lady Marie, I know. Like, I'll never get your name right. It's okay. No, I was just gonna say that like I still feel sometimes like I can't talk about it to some people because they like when you mention it, they still give you those looks like you're crazy. So I still feel very like conservative about it. Even though I'm an adult and some people are like, that's so cool what you do, but then there's other that are like don't touch, like, I don't know. So I'm a little bit of just both. It's hard to talk about it sometimes, but in others, I can just go away.
Here's a great story about Nani that I need to tell just so you guys get a laugh out of this. But her son goes to the school that I work at. It's an elementary school, and he's a second grader there. And one day I had started to talk about being a ghost hunter in the lunchroom with some of the kids. They were asking me some questions about it. And I had to be careful because I can't give out all this information because they go home and tell their parents we've got a crazy lady at school. So I was talking to some of the kids about it, and they were asking me some general questions. And her son was sitting across from me. And I said, well, yeah. I said, your mom does it too. And he looks at me and he goes, and I said, oh, crap. Maybe she hasn't told you about this yet. And it was just so cool, his reaction. But everybody in the lunchroom thought he was the coolest kid in the school because his mom does it now. So it was cool to watch the kids' reactions. The children are very into this. I don't know if you get that from people that you talk to, but the kids I talk to, they are very, very interested in this.
It's now no longer peeing your pants that makes you cool.
Yeah.
It's having parents who are paranormal investigators.
Yeah.
You just gave that boy instant cred for like the next 2 or 3 years at school.
Now.
Right. His head's going to be like, he won't even get through the door when he gets home. He's going to be like, turn his head sideways like Stewie to have to go through the door.
Yep.
So the question to your story about doing the cleansing and everything, do you believe as paranormal investigators that there is only so much that we can do? We all try to help our clients as best as possible, but we can only go to a certain, like if we give them our advice, it's up to them to take it. Do you believe that there's only so far that a paranormal investigator can go to help a client before we hit that wall?
Yes, absolutely. For example, we've done investigation with a private home in town here, and we've done investigation there, I think, twice now. And we've done clearings there 3 times in person, and once I did a distance clearing as well. But it's all about that intention and having the clients put their foot down with that intention, saying, only those of the highest love and light are allowed in my home. I'm protecting my children. We did through that whole thing, and then she still like, but I really like the spirit of the little girl in the house. Can she stay? Well, that immediately lets them back in. So yeah, you can only do so much if they're not willing to completely help.
So here's a good follow-up, because we've had this happen before. Have you, and I don't know if you've experienced this yet or not, but you may, after you do multiple clearings and they don't hold, the entities that are there seem to get really pissed off that you're trying to make them leave. And so things where it might not be a malicious intent to begin with at the beginning of a situation, the more you go in there and you bring, the love and light of God, and you bring nothing but white light, even if it's not necessarily a negative entity per se, not negative, entity per se, we have run into situations where if the homeowner doesn't follow through on what you're saying, it seems to really spike up kind of more malicious intent with the haunting that's there. Have you guys had that at all?
That same home, I think, to a point, yes, especially with the children. They've experienced more dark energies, I think, kind of trying to communicate with them.
That weren't there previously, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So now what's your game plan for that?
When she messages us again, we'll do what we can. Contact a church. I don't know. Having someone come in and do a true blessing on the home could help. But unless those homeowners are going to put their foot down too,
right?
Well, nothing. No one is really going to be able to help with that situation. So
no, they got to reclaim their space before they move forward. What's so while this is a good segue. So what's all 4 of your ladies' ideas on child spirits? Do they exist or do they not exist?
Well, I definitely think they exist. I'm a little more cautious with them, but we haven't experienced any demonic
on investigations.
On investigations, I should say, yeah. But yes, definitely, we've experienced several child spirits in several locations.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely.
Yep, I would agree. Billings County Museum was one where there were several children.
James Memorial Library.
The Tabe Museum, which is actually right next door to where we're at tonight. There's a child in that building as well. Little boy at Minot State University.
Yep. There's a little girl in the basement of Original Comics and Collectibles. I'm trying to think.
What about you, Brenda, while she's thinking?
Oh, I totally agree with Stephanie what she's saying, 100% that they're there, but you have to be careful. You gotta be careful.
You're not going to share.
I'm waiting for them to finish and then I'll share. Yeah.
No, I agree with the rest of the ladies. I don't know if we did anything if we caught me at the Mouse River
Players.
Theater. Did we get anybody there?
I don't think there were any children there.
No. I don't think
couldn't
so.
remember what we all did, but yeah, no, I'm definitely, yeah.
I did run into one child spirit at San Haven too. It was not with the team. I was just up there doing photos and just kind of getting to fill the space and stuff. And there was a small girl there that I was able to help move on to. So if we do encounter, especially, well, whether it's a child or an adult, we do try and help them move on, see the light, and get them to connect with loved ones on the other side too. So.
Well, the reason for my question, the reason I brought it up, is because I'm a perfect 8 for 8 with child spirits being malicious entities. So I have zero belief, and I've said this, I don't even know how many times I've said it on the show, and how many people I've told during investigations, but I have zero belief in child spirits. I don't think that they're all demons, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think that whatever is there takes the form of an innocent to have you drop your guard, to kind of lure you in. Not saying that you're going to get attacked, not saying that anything's going to go on, but I think there's a reason why. I think there's some reason why that we don't understand that things would appear as a child spirit.
Yeah.
You know, just as a follow-up question, why would you see a child spirit in the basement of a comic book shop? Why would a child want to be sitting in a basement when all children are deathly afraid of basements and closets?
It could be something with the land, something that was there before. There could have been a farm there at one point. Families move through all the time. It could have been, I mean, like the orphan train ran through here as well. And like maybe the child fell off and died and he saw the first building or the first piece of land that he saw, and that's where they stayed.
Never recovered.
Yeah.
Plus we were part of, I don't remember what year it was, but there was the huge blizzard that came through in either February or March timeframe. Was it the 1920s, I think? Something early 1900s timeframe. And it basically, great warm day, all the kids went to school. By the end of the midday, blizzard hit. They sent all the kids home, and there were hundreds of children and adults trying to travel home who died tragically. So, and the school that was the only active school at the time was actually just a couple blocks from here. So that could be some of the children that we picked up down here too. Could have been some of those children. But yeah, I completely agree that demonics definitely play the role of an innocent or show themselves as an innocent. So that way you're like, oh, I need to help this child. Definitely. I agree with you on that.
And also in 2011, there was the big flood here, and water makes energy travel all over the place. And maybe child spirit just kind of plopped down. You never know. I do know that there was one definite child spirit, no questions asked at the Billings County Critter Arts Museum, because the curator, Bambi, was going through some stuff at the museum, and she opened up a wall and she found these shoes. Well, she did some research and stuff, and here eventually she found out that they were the shoes. Oh, I should add that things were happening. Like a child was following her around and stuff, a little boy. And as she found out more of the history about these shoes, there was a school fire that was not far from Medora. And this little boy had actually burned in this fire with these shoes on. And here the spirit of the little boy was still attached, and she helped him cross over and everything. And it did kind of have a happy ending, but I mean, it's still a really sad story, but that was blatantly a child spirit. Absolutely.
So I'm with you, ladies. Like I believe there can be something like a child spirit, but I'm also with Dave and you guys. You have to be cautious of which time you're dealing with. So
yeah, definitely.
If you are dealing with what you think is a child spirit, how do you best differentiate between a child spirit and I guess you could say an adult spirit or a different spirit masquerading as one?
That is a fantastic question.
Thank you.
I think just because of our intuitive nature, I've dabbled in a lot of different religions and a lot of research on every religion out there. So I feel I can connect and I can feel if it is a demonic. You know, it's just asking the right questions and feeling the energy and working with that spirit for a short time that, to me, I can kind of pick up on a negative spirit pretty easily. I've had some really dark, negative, demonic things try and connect with me as a very small child. So at a very young age, I'm getting emotional here. I found a way to really protect myself because I've experienced some really dark things at a very, very young age. So at least that's on my perspective and what I've dealt with. So I can kind of, and I know they're tricksters. I know that they hide and they say what you want and they toy with you and stuff, but
yeah. I guess with me, like I constantly, like with children or even with adults, it doesn't matter. Like I constantly have my guard up. And a lot of times I don't let that guard down for the whole night unless we go back to the location a second or a third time. Sometimes I still have my guard up. So, but no, I do completely agree with Dave too. Like we always have to be very, very careful.
And we do everything that we can to protect the team. I am a Karuna Reiki master. I've trained several of the team members. So we do use Reiki to protect ourselves when we go into investigations. We use crystals, prayer, whatever anybody needs in their spirit basket, so to speak. We do bring that to the team to protect ourselves. So we don't go in it. We're not a bunch of idiots who are like, oh, let's go chase ghosts and let's see what we can. We are very, very adamant about protecting ourselves. We've had some team members in the past that didn't bring crystals. They didn't when we were trying to do Reiki and do prayers and protection and everything. Oh, I'm good. I did it myself. And shortly after that, they're screaming in the dark room and saying, I see a demon, and run out. So we'd have to stop the whole investigation. And then we'd have to clear the energy off of with them, settle them down, and then we'd have to regroup and do that. And it's too much. So we are very adamant when we do our investigations. We have a list. If you don't bring your crystals, if you're not participating in the things to protect yourself, we're going to ask you to step out of the investigation for the night. So
I should add that in the past, we are all guilty of that.
Yes.
Well, that's how you learn.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And the way you know how to protect yourself, and this was my follow-up question, is have you ever been followed home? Because if you haven't been followed home, then you have no idea how to protect yourself, right? You have to experience it and then be like, damn it, I thought I was good on that one and I screwed up and now I need to go and understand better, but do better than I did last time, obviously. And it's happened to me many times.
Yep.
Mike and I had an investigation. We just were meeting with the homeowners. And so I didn't have my guard up, but I always have my guard up. But I didn't that night. We were just shooting the shit with them and talking and stuff. And next thing you know, I get home and there's this little black thing running about 2.5 feet tall, running around in my bedroom. Just being playful and mischievous. Nothing horrible, but still, I didn't want it home. I didn't want it at my house,
Yeah.
And so obviously, and so I'll just ask you instead of answering it for you, is that how you learned? Did you have you been followed home and then you were like, damn it, now I got to figure out some other way to do it?
So at one point we had, and at this point in time, there was only 4 of us, me, Wendy, and 2 other, Brian, who was also part of the team, and then another team member who's no longer with us, on the team. We had a meeting and we decided to just walk around downtown. Well, it was a meeting. Like I didn't really have anything with me because I just got off work, and we went into one of the buildings where they were renovating, where actually my husband used to own a business and someone else moved in, and I wanted to see what it looked like because I'd always picked up on something while his business was in there. And I went down there and I just I can't even explain it. I just felt mad. And I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky person. Like I'm really easy to get along with. Like I'm a water, so I just kind of go with the flow. When I got home, I literally wanted to punch a hole in the wall for no reason. Like I was so angry, and I called up Wendy and I'm like, Wendy, you got to do something. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm trying I'm like sitting in water. I'm like trying to like cleanse myself. I'm like, it's not working. Like I literally want to destroy my house right now. And she did a distance clearing on me and everything. And after about 20 minutes, I started to feel better. So even if we go to meetings, I will have my crystals now, just in case we go out and walk around. Because you never know when you never know when something is lurking or looking, so.
So you guys are in a unique kind of position here. So Dave and I are obviously both in the cities, or the Twin Cities, I should say. And there are, a couple dozen at least paranormal teams in this area. So, each team is going to go all over the place. You guys are, obviously in the middle of nowhere. I've been to Minot. It is a very nice town, but it's surrounded by nothing. It's just, you guys are there. So I can't imagine that there's a whole heaping pile of paranormal teams for people to call in or to seek help with. So my question is, you see shows like the Ghost of Shepherdstown and the Ghost of Morgan City, where one team gets called into all of these different locations, and they, whether you want to believe the storyline or not, they're all connected. Do you get the sense that of all the places that you've been to, since you are in the unique position of being like the one team to be able to call in to all these different places, that certain hauntings, not all, but certain hauntings may actually be connected to something else?
Our thoughts actually, the ones located in downtown Minot are definitely, the majority of them are connected. Minot was called the Magic City. It is also called Little Chicago back in the day, for rum runners, prostitution, opium dens, just ties to allegedly Al
Capone's men would smuggle rum down from Canada and come through Minot.
Yep, and they're tunnels that they say aren't tunnels, but there are other researchers who say, that they were used for questionable things. Tunnels going to like the courthouse to sneak in prostitutes and a little bit of alcohol to the workers in the head honcho car house, perhaps for a little afternoon happiness. But yeah, it has a very shady, dark past that not a lot of people want to talk about. But we feel that that's a part of the deep history and the passion that we have downtown in the little area that we have. Most of the locations that we have, there's either a tunnel or some kind of tie to, it used to be a speakeasy, or it was one of the original opium dens. So,
where there are many, many pool halls, there's been stabbing, shootings, like all kinds of stuff going on. Like FBI agents have been shot and killed here in Minot. Like it's just crazy.
What kind of rebelness is going out there in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota?
Well,
I didn't know you guys were in Minot, right? So, I mean, I kind of know where Minot is. So while you're talking, I'm looking it up on the map. I mean, Mike's not lying. There's like absolutely nothing around you except for like duck ponds, and open land. What the hell are you guys shooting FBI agents, opium dens, hidden tunnels, rum smuggling, prostitute? Jesus, what is going on? I got to come visit Minot.
Well, I mean, that was like
a hot spot.
Days. I mean, not so much now, but
that's all secret, top secret stuff.
Yeah.
But no, the railroad comes right through the town, and we're within 30 minutes of the Canadian border, so it was easy access for them to smuggle in to our little happy Magic City.
And part of being out in the middle of nowhere is part of why Al Capone and them would want to pick Minot too.
Sure. I mean, you only got to pay off one or two local constables, right?
Right.
In your back pocket, because you only got one or two of them there.
Yep.
So you each hand them a little envelope of money once a month, and you run around and do whatever you want in town.
Yep.
And nobody else is there to stop you. So,
Is it just me, or is Al Capone everywhere?
Well, I think he had ties everywhere.
Yeah, he was number one gangster for a long time. Ran the whole Midwest.
I get that, but it just seems to be like every single like paranormal hotspot city, like Dubuque, even up here in the cities, everybody seems to, and now, we can include Minot in that. It just seems like everybody's got like, well, Al Capone used to stay here when he did this, and we have the penthouse suite is the Al Capone suite because he used to stay here when everybody just seems to be connected to Al Capone.
Well, he was never here.
They say he was never here himself. Just his little guys were causing chaos.
He probably never made it past Wisconsin because you figure he was running Wisconsin, Chicagoland area, and Iowa.
And I think, wasn't there some history with the Son of Sam killer here too?
Yeah.
Yes, the Son of Sam was living in Minot for a short time too.
Of course he did.
Wow. Wow.
From Minot Air Force Base.
So,
road trip.
So basically, you're sitting on like the gold mine of paranormal activity.
It is a very active little town. We love our little, especially our downtown area. It's rich in culture. For a small town, it has a great arts culture and great little wine shops, nice art galleries.
Plug.
Well, yeah. We'll call it an adventure.
Absolutely. Are you sitting on like a gigantic deposit of quartz too, like right underneath town square?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to check because I was going to say, because I'm there. I'm driving up tomorrow. If you guys got the huge gigantic quartz deposit right in the middle of downtown, I mean that's going to be beautiful.
So a question for you two guys: what city are you stationed? Are you guys out of? Because I used to live. I'm from Lakeville, Minnesota.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I moved over here about 35 years ago. So where are you guys at?
Well, I grew up in Chicago. And then when I moved to the Twin Cities about 25 years ago, I lived in Lindstrom, Forest Lake area for almost 20 of that. Then I moved on to Woodbury. And now I'm on the west side of town with Mike.
Okay.
We're in Otsego.
All right.
Yep. So, yeah. Kind of like I didn't grow up in Chicago. I grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Mean streets.
Yep.
So, but yeah. So, I came here just in junior high. Lived on the east side for till probably about 7 years ago, and then moved here to Otsego. So, and I've been here ever since. So I'm about like three hours outside of Fargo.
Sure.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, my team is pretty much scattered across the Twin Cities. One in Hastings, one in Bloomington, one in Minnetonka, 2 in St. Paul. So we cover a good amount of space. Dave, I asked a bunch of questions. Do you have anything?
Well, I want to jump into this, but I mean, I don't know if the ladies want to go there yet, if they want to wait till the second hour, but with the Air Force Base being there and because correct me if I'm wrong here, but going back in my grade school studies, didn't they have the Minutemen silos in Minot, right?
Yes, Brenda and my husband's actually work on them.
Okay, so with that said, kind of moving a little bit away from actual physical or manifestations of dead people, moving into more of like the UFO type of thing. Segue. Do you guys have any like experiences with any type of UAP or UFO phenomena?
Not personally, but I know the Air Force Base has recorded some unexplained phenomenon back in the 70s, I believe. I think the first time I went to Minot State in late 90s, they had a big conference at the college, and we're talking about sharing the evidence and stuff that came through. So yeah, they have had some evidence that was non-classified now that they talked about, but there's some questionable stuff. Well, of course, we have the biggest blowy uppy things.
The biggest kabooms.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's, and that's one of the things from the UFO researcher standpoint is that a lot of UFO sightings happen to be around nuclear generators, nuclear power stations, volcanoes, and around our nuclear armament capabilities. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like, and we've talked about this on the show many times, it's almost like somebody outside of obviously our space is watching us to make sure that we don't do something stupid with what we have, especially with the destructive capability of what's there. Right. I mean, we could destroy our planet in a heartbeat if some idiot pushed one button. Well, that's very simplified in terms, but right. It'd be much more complicated to get the missile launched than that. But for layman's terms, somebody pushes the button and then you get an angry retaliatory response. And we would, a couple hours later, we would all be ghosts. Well, not me. I'm moving on. I know that. I'm out of here. So
you'd be a spirit.
I would be a spirit. I'd be traveling, going up to Mars, traveling around the universe, looking what I want to look at before I got back, put in the gigantic pool of life again and waiting to get reborn somewhere else. Where's my next stop going to be?
Slushy machine to get.
Yeah, that's just it, right? The great big cloud of light that you just get back into, and you're like, whoop, and you get to the bottom finally, and you're like, it's Dave's turn again. Hi.
So, is that the new official gesture for the Sea of Souls?
The rebirth. That's it. You saw it here first.
I remember my question that I had. Brenda, you threw me off when you asked us one.
I'm sorry.
and it flew out of my mind because I wanted to answer yours. So going back to obviously downtown and just Minot in general, is there a building that you guys really, really, really want to get into, but like the owners are like, I don't care who you are, I ain't interested?
I know what building I really want to get into is the old Mason Lodge downtown. Because it is no. There's something about it. I just shudder every time I walk past it. But I really want to get in there.
Is it still open?
I haven't. No, it's closed now. It used to be a hair school. The basement is still an active antique store, but the upper level was the Masonic temple back in the day. Not a lot scares me. I've experienced some pretty shifty stuff in my life, and I was just one day randomly going into the antique store with my mom and my niece at the time, and I got back to this one certain location, and it was such an intense negative energy, just like if you could imagine yourself being physically assaulted and almost like strangled out. I got that sensation. I was like, Mom, I've got to leave. So we left. My mom took my ex-sister-in-law and the niece back down into that location. She didn't know about what happened with me down there, and she got into that same location. She broke down in tears and begged to be pulled back out. So that's one location we'd like to go, as well as the Rose Bed and Breakfast would be another one.
Yeah, it's like a big old mansion
Victorian
type.
home.
Yeah, with like a carriage house and stuff. It's right next to the river. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Some of the former owners and guests have experienced things there. The new people that own it aren't open to that. So we respect that. And
one day,
That's when you just rent the whole place out yourself.
We've thought of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, and then just kind of casually walk around with equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, you're admiring the bed and breakfast.
Set up security cameras and
Right. Just do it on tripods. Just do static cams instead of your DVR system. Right.
Actually did that at Fort Totten a couple weekends ago.
Well, I mean, really, if you rented out every room, what you did in your room is up to you.
Right.
So you could walk from room to room. You could set up cameras in your rooms. They would probably frown in the hallways, but.
Well, usually B&B owners are in their own space after a certain time at night, and you have the full run of the place. So that's why I said that.
Yep.
Now, see, if I were at the Palmer House, and I've never gone to the Palmer House yet, but if I go to the Palmer House, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm renting the like the honeymoon suite or whatever it is with the hot tub room where the lady killed herself. I'm going to stay in that room. Have you stayed there? Yeah.
No, we're a couple of us three are actually going to go with Rochelle and Brian in July for their event that they're putting on. So yeah, I rented the honeymoon suite just so I can.
There you go.
Why not?
My good friend of mine was there, and he said it was very active.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that's what I would do. I would rent that room, and then I would just casually wait till it got about midnight and everybody was sleeping, and I would just kind of casually walk around the halls with some equipment and see what I got.
Just pretend that you're drunk and lost and be like, I don't know where my room's at.
Have everything kind of hidden. I just have GoPros on instead of my handheld, and have a couple microphones tucked in my shirt.
Or something, just like, oh, it's my heart machine.
Get some K2 gloves, walk around.
No, I mean, you just hold around your K2, and if somebody asks you about it, you'd be like, this isn't my phone. you just put it into your pocket. It's not illegal to be stupid.
No, that's right.
So, I mean, if you want to fake stupidity, there's nothing they can do about it.
We're from North Dakota. We don't know.
Right. That's right. You just say we're from Minot. We're from Minot.
We're from Minot.
We didn't know. Oh, you're from Minot. Well, that's my fault. Go ahead. Continue what you were doing. You're fine.
Lost my bag.
Have any of you ever used that as an excuse? Just in general, not even about the paranormal, just in general.
Yes. My husband's prior Air Force as well as Brenda's, and we were stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and we were down there, and I worked for the Santa Maria Times, and there was sometimes they're like, oh, I'm from North Dakota, I don't know this technology, and I was like, meanwhile running the computers and stuff for them, but yeah, it was more of a side joke, but.
Well, right. I mean, obviously it's a joke. I'm just curious if you guys have ever used it. Guess so. So, I mean, two of yours' husbands are in the Air Force.
They're retired now.
Right. But I mean, at the time when they were active, or even, since their retirement, I mean, did they ever tell you anything such as like experiences that they had with this, like UFOs, or maybe, I mean, because bases, I would think military bases especially would have some sort of activity to them with everything that goes on in the secrecy. I mean, did they ever come home and be like, you're never going to believe what happened?
Mine has never said anything, but honest, he has to have high clearance, and so if he wouldn't tell me.
I think that husband-wife clearance goes above top secret.
You don't know my husband.
You are correct.
Don't tell things.
He's also on the team.
But there are a lot of locations on base that we have had enlisted members that have contacted us like, hey, this building has a lot of things. There's phones that ring off the hook, and there's like nobody down there. All the phones are disconnected. They see shadows. They hear footsteps. Allegedly, there is a missile site, and this is allegedly, that somebody committed suicide on in one of the missile silos. They shot themselves down in the silo. And this is just rumors. The wall that he shot himself up against, blood seeps through every time they try and paint over the wall, and they feel activity and stuff in that silo. But speculation, who knows? We won't be able to ever go there.
You won't get in there.
But,
They won't allow that.
yeah, there are things on base. Back when I was in high school too, I was always the weird North Dakota kid who'd seen spirits and weird things. So I hung out mostly with the Air Force kids who are a little more open-minded. And I know through them that there was a lot of satanic worshiping in the basements and stuff. So there was a lot of that dark residual stuff in those locations as well. And some of that could have been linked back to Son of Sam back then as well. So I don't know.
On the air base? There was satanic worshiping going on the air base?
Yep. So Son of Sam was actually, I don't know if he was related to or he was friends with somebody and a group of people that lived on base. and they were affiliated with an occult that was linked to California.
All cults are linked to California.
Yeah. That's why it's so beautiful there. That's why everybody wants to go there. There are rumors too back in the 80s that like Oak Park, one of the real beautiful parks, playgrounds and stuff downtown, they had a lot of satanic worship and stuff back then too. We're actually doing an investigation in October at Oak Park Theater, which is across the street from it. So we're going to try and do some history and stuff on a lot of suicides. Thank you, sir. Look, thank you. He's the best hostess with the mostest.
Refreshing cocktails. Yeah.
I can hear him pouring the wine.
Since it was empty.
Or luscious. Winos.
Oak Park will definitely be a cool one to check out. It has been several things throughout the years, but this is like the fourth generation of it being an actual movie theater. So that'll be really, really cool. It was a pool hall at different times too, but we're hoping to kind of connect some of the activity from Oak Park to the theater as well. And then we're doing a big investigation in September, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then we're doing a premiere launch for the evidence that we've gotten through several of the last years that we've been a team with the Oak Park Theater. So
yeah, I think it'll be really cool to watch some of the stuff like up on the big screen.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Exciting.
That'll be very cool.
Just wanted to give a shout out to, we're working with an author right now. He has contacted us, Andy Weeks. He is almost finished with his book. I just contacted him today, asked if I could give him a shout out, and I'm going to read a little blurb from him if you guys don't mind. Andy Weeks has written, what was that?
Go ahead.
I said not at all. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, as I'm just like in the middle of doing it anyway. Andy Weeks has written a few different book titles related to paranormal. His new book, which will be released in early 2023, it is titled Haunted Dakotas, Ghosts, and Paranormal Phenomenon of the Peace Garden and Mount Rushmore States. And he is nearly completed with this book, and now the history and the hauntings, which include paranormal experiences and perspectives of real people, and including input from Stephanie and myself. He says he is thankful for our input, and he's looking to get together with some people from Minnesota to find out their paranormal connections as well. Has he talked to you? All right. Yeah, he's an awesome guy, so I just wanted to give him a shout out, and we are super anxious and looking forward to reading that completed book about all the cool things.
Absolutely. I got a follow-up question for you on the Mason's Lodge. So when you were downstairs in the old antique store, were you able to differentiate whether it was an item that was there that affected you, or whether it was the location, or whether it was an entity?
I feel it was a human, or like an entity, just because the height that I felt of the presence, and the intensity, and this might be a little too much to share. I don't know what your viewers are, but it was almost, I felt like I was being sexually assaulted. It was like I felt like I was being attacked, choked out, and like he was ready to
kind of groping you and stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay.
So I feel it was definitely a entity, not an object. We have picked up on objects that have energy connected, especially at the James Memorial Art Center in Williston. But this was definitely a dominant, aggressive male.
Okay. I just asked because I used to run an antique store, and some years ago, and during that time frame, there was all kinds of things going on. Like every time I walk into an antique store, either I would see an apparition, or I would walk up to an object and I would get nauseous, or all this. I don't know if I was just tuned in at that particular time of my life for that moment, because I happened to own an antique store and that's what I was doing, and my focus was with that. But I haven't been to one for a while because I kind of got burned out on that. Because I was kind of like, I'm tired of going to, I love antique stores. I absolutely love the history of old things. But I'm tired of walking in there and then having to leave because I'm nauseous.
Yeah.
Like I can't even browse around. And then it pisses me off. And then I'm like, forget it. I'm not even going now. You know, so I got through the big baby tantrum. And
And the location where I felt him too was in a back area where there wasn't any antiques. It was almost like this little room that they kind of were. It was empty at the time. It was kind of like that middle room where they like check in new antiques and then bring them out. It was in the back towards where the bathroom area was. So
perfect little ambush spot.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes a lot to get me going, and it's only happened 3 times. And it's never been on an investigation.
No.
It's always been Lompoc, California, at the Lompoc Record newspaper down there. Another experience where I was like, I need to get out of here now.
So, I mean, this actually ties in great with what will probably be the last question of this hour. But, you know, Wendy, you had mentioned how, you know, you pretty much, you don't get scared of anything. And especially because of your past experiences. I know Dave's the same way. I guess, don't care. But there are a lot of investigators out there, especially when they're new, that they do get apprehensive. They do get frightened. They do, they want to try to maybe stay away from investigating, potentially really dark cases just because they're not experienced enough to do that. So this is for all of you, whether it's happened, still happens, or whether it has happened before. I mean, when you guys get scared or apprehensive of a case or of a location, how do you best get yourself over that hump?
I like to go outside and take my shoes off and stand in the grass. That's what I like to do.
Yep.
Grounding,
Yep.
Yeah, that's a huge a huge step towards that right direction. And if it's too intense, we will do energy clearings. Definitely make sure that they're in a safe mental state too, through that clearing, through that grounding.
Have you ever walked out of a case because it was too dark or too violent or too negative?
No, not yet. Knock on wood.
Well, I feel like when we have gone to a place, Wendy and Stephanie, they kind of check it out and they're like, okay, if we feel good, we'll go. If we're not, then we might step back for a minute. So I like that I'm kind of guided by them to be like, this is okay or this is not okay. But then just being around them helps me feel better. So
I think we do have one rule though, and that is you don't want to be last.
that is true. My one rule. I hate being last.
Well, I learned that if she's with me, I know I'm the one in the back. Because I honestly, I don't get scared. But I like I said, I came from that religious background, and I have not met a demon yet. And I am intelligent enough to not even mess around with that, and that would scare the bejeepers out of me. So I don't know how I'll react when that day comes, but when our machines are going off or people are saying that they're being touched, I don't get scared. I'm not sure why that is. I don't get apprehensive. I'm not sure why that is.
Brenda is also the type of person that if an entity or a demon would come up behind her and scare her, she would probably turn around and punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Like, I totally see that.
Show them the movie. You'd be like, I see that.
So it's not really an issue for me. I hope that doesn't kick me in the ASS one day.
Yeah, I feel like too, I feel like I have a tragedy in my life that makes me feel a little bit more like closed off too. And so I feel like, I've expressed it to them, and so they kind of help me work through that that tragedy. But it's still there. So it's hard to come over that sometimes.
I think the smartest thing you're doing is not going last, because we all know that it's the last person in line in the horror movies that gets taken out.
That's me.
Yeah. That's me too. If it ever happens, I'm always bringing up the rear. I'm like, that's fine. Or I'm the first one in. You know, either way, it doesn't matter to me. But I'm hardly ever in the middle.
See that's what I don't understand. Why would you not want to be last? Because then, if everybody else makes it before you, then you should be safe. They should always attack the first one in, and not the last one.
The first one in scares them out. They circle back around the property. Then they want some revenge. And where are they going to get their revenge? They're going to get their revenge on the last person in line and yank them back out in it.
That is the biggest
pile
of bullshit that I have ever heard in my life.
The other three are in the house. Everything's going fine. The fourth person is hanging out in a tree somewhere. That's the way that shit happens, man.
No, that's not the way it happens at all.
That's totally how it happens.
No, not at all. So, I mean, do you just want to continue, or do we want to move into?
Does anybody want to take a break, bathroom break, anything like that? We got like a 3-minute advertisement clip we can play. Everybody can run to the bathroom, or
it's a minute and a half. But
whatever. We can play it twice. Whatever. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Well then, why don't we move into part 2?
All right. Yeah. So let's start off part 2. So I didn't ask this question. So I did ask the UFO question. What about any type of cryptozoological stuff? Is there anything? I mean, you guys like the Beast of Bray Road in Wisconsin. We have potentially a werewolf in the St. Croix Valley here, dogman for a better terminology, but a dogman to me is a type of a werewolf type of being. Is there anything in Minot that we should know about now that we know about all this crazy shit that was happening there?
Well, a couple experiences. I don't really know what I would define it as, but like right before we had a CP rail derailment where it spilled a bunch of anhydrous ammonia into basically the valley of Minot. And this, I don't know, Mothman prophecy type vibe to it, but the night before it happened, we were parking our car, looked up into the pine trees that were next door, and I see these 2 red demonic eyes staring down at me. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't like that. And I went into the house, and later that night, the town had to evacuate. There are rumors, we did a house in Des Lacs that used to be a church, and the homeowner, the renter of the location is prior police out in that area. And he said that there's an area where they see a creature in the ditch that crawls out across the road several times. People have reported that. I'm not remembering his name, but he actually came to an event we have called a MagicCon. He's a cryptozoologist. I don't know if he's out of Texas, but he had a lot of encounters and talked and shared with a lot of stories with people from the local area saying that they're all seeing kind of the same similar things. Have you ladies seen anything?
I grew up on a farm. I saw lots of stuff, but nothing that's like super scared me. I don't know.
Well, supposedly Mothman is going on in the Chicagoland area right now.
Wow.
I don't know if you've been following any of that, but there's been sightings. There was a sighting 3 blocks from my aunt's house in Bolingbrook at a park. People were just out walking their dog in the evening. Wasn't even dark out yet in the park. And there was this about 8-foot tall, solid black entity that when they stopped, like they got this bad vibe and they stopped. And when it turned like this, it kind of hunched its back and the wingtips spread out. And it just went poof, just like an owl, dead quiet, and it was gone. And they've seen it around O'Hare Airport and then around some of the Chicago suburbs too. So
wow.
Everybody's kind of like, well, if that's true, is this the predictor of the Silver Bridge crash? Is this the predictor of all these, the bridge, the 35E bridge? There's a video camera that caught a gigantic black thing flying through the sky right above the bridge 15 minutes before the collapse. Wow. And it collapsed because they said you know, that there was too much construction weight on that one side. They had too much equipment and materials parked on that one side of the bridge, you know?
Mhm.
I mean, my sister worked right across the bridge and she was 15 minutes from coming home.
Wow.
Oh
You know,
my
she
God.
just missed that, you know. So I don't know. I don't know if Mothman's true or not, but I think there is something out there that kind of is a predictor of. We had a show on that a while back. I think there's something out there that predicts where there's going to be the next like natural disaster or like really bad event.
And gives you that warning.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that.
I just want to say though, to Mothman being sighted in Chicago, rumor has it that Mothman, big Cubs fan.
Yeah, well, that too. He was wearing a Cubs jersey, but
so he's just there to catch a game. That's all.
Yeah, doubleheader. Yeah,
Get some hot dogs, some popcorn.
yeah. He's waiting for the crosstown series when the Sox go up to play the Cubs. Yeah. Then he's out of there. That's the disaster.
Then he'll be seen in Texas, I'm sure.
Yeah, he'll be somewhere next.
Yes. So, all right. Part 2?
Yeah, we can move on to part 2. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So, what Dave and I do pretty much every week, and I've kind of given you guys a brief synopsis of it, is we take listener stories and emails and read them live on there, and then we give our answer to the best that we can based on the information that is given to us. And we thought, as paranormal investigators yourselves, that instead of people always hearing Dave and I give our answers, that we would read these to you and let you guys answer them instead of us.
You're getting a little daring, aren't you?
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Hour two is when all hell breaks loose.
Oh God.
So yeah,
All right.
the wine is flowing. The answers are going to come pouring out. That's it. Things are going to start tossed around the room. Yeah. I never do that about you. What do you mean you don't believe that? Yeah. It's all coming out.
All right. So I'll go first with this one. So I wanted to make sure we had at least one story that involved this topic, because I think that it's one that can really go either way. Everybody has a different opinion. So I'll just read this for you.
We got it from our we're concerned.
So here's its title. Do Ouija boards really work?
Ooh.
This person writes it. I've read some stories on people's experiences with Ouija boards. They are very interesting. I've only tried a Ouija board once when I was a kid. My stepdad bought it as a Christmas gift. Him and I played it only once. Nothing happened. After about half an hour, we just goofed around, moving the planchette and making jokes, then packed it up. My question is, do Ouija boards really work? My wife and I are talking about getting one. We've been together 44 years and have had our own paranormal experiences over the years. So we thought, why not? We would appreciate and like to hear from anyone who can give us their advice. Thanks in advance.
Well, we do not. We don't mess with the Ouija board. Just because you don't know what you are inviting in. Just kind of like that child spirit thing. A lot of the ones that will communicate with you through that Ouija board are playing with you. They're playing nice, and they're not.
I'd rather be safe and not use one than sorry and try to play around with one just for giggles.
Funsies.
Yeah, for funsies. And nope.
I just want to throw in there really quick. You do not have to be diplomatic in your answers.
No. Open air forum.
Yeah. So, Wendy, I could tell you're trying to choose your words carefully. If you think they're morons, just say you're morons.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't dabble. Of course, I did. I played with the Ouija board, and pat me on the head. Well, because I was a dumb kid, and I was going to be burned at stake. So why not bring one to high school with you? you could bring board games. So I brought it to the library, and I got kicked out of the library a couple times for it. But yeah, no, I went and experienced some very dark things with that, and I would not suggest befriending any Ouija board friends.
I tell you what, there's a lot of Ouija board abuse in Minnesota. I've had some really great cases thanks to the Ouija board. So I just want to say thank you to the manufacturers of the Ouija board personally, because I've had some phenomenal cases and gotten some absolutely phenomenal evidence.
You keep up in business, Parker Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Parker Brothers.
Oh,
I got the new,
Bradley.
a new
Barbie edition.
it's almost like an electronic Ouija board.
Have you guys checked out the new Envoy?
No.
The
It's got 4 different settings.
Ghost Stop.
Yeah, from
Ghost Stop.
Ghost Stop.
And it's basically, yeah, a digital Ouija board. It clicks through all the alphabet. Then you click it to another setting, and it clicks through all the numbers. And then it click it to the next one. It goes through yes or no. And then it also has emojis for emotions.
It's really cool.
It's a really cool piece. But after I purchased it and brought it to the investigation, they were like, "Oh my God, it's just a digital Ouija board." And I was like, "Oh shit." But
Is that called the Envoy?
yes, the Envoy.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. It's like right there. Brand new Envoy Ghost Communicator. Get yourself infested with a demon in minutes. That's what it should say.
Yeah, they really like on that investigation, the first one that we used it on, they really liked the emojis. Like the spirits really liked the emojis.
Yeah.
Now, isn't that strange? Because what the hell do spirits know about emojis?
Right? Well, it's just
If
like
you think about it, right?
Sad face. They're not actual like emojis like you see on your phone. It's just like
all right, let me look at it.
Sad face, mad face, and whatever.
And a lot of them were mad. So we're like, okay, I'm sorry. We'll put this away now.
Face.
All right, I got to take a better look at it while you're talking about it.
I'm trying to keep my composure.
I noticed.
Hey, when I ordered a free gift certificate for a pizza, though.
You're gonna love it, Mike. It's on sale for $399.95.
What?
Yeah. Plus, it comes with a free case with foam lining for a limited time.
But does it come with a free, for extra $200, does it come with a free pizza coupon?
Oh my gosh.
No, I don't see the free pizza coupon.
You should have used Trivago there, Wendy.
Because I guess they called it
It's a really nice foam case, though. It's like
Yeah.
packed in with some really nice, like thick foam lining and stuff.
always good quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Add it to the list of equipment.
No. So, Brenda and the Big L. That's a,
The Big L.
You should say that
A little L.
that's the best. That's the best.
11, just so you know.
The what now?
These two, Nani and Wendy, are 4'11", so yeah, you can call her Little L.
4'11".
Yep.
Holy buckets.
All right, Little L and Brenda. What about you? What are your opinions on the Ouija board?
Sure. I don't think I would touch it. I'm always worried that I'm going to open something up and I won't be able to close it back up, or that it will follow me. So I try not to have anything to do with it. But that's mine.
There's not a chance in hell. There's not a chance in hell. And now that I realize that I've carried her Envoy a couple times, I'm thinking I can see beads out when I get home.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Because I don't even want to be around it. Some people could say, well, gosh, Brenda, you're doing this investigation. You're trying to talk with ghosts that way. So how is that any different than using that board? The way I look at it is my intention of what I'm doing when I go in the investigation. My intention when I'm using that board is totally different, I feel, than when I'm going on an investigation. You're opening up things you don't want to open up when you touch that board.
I agree with you. there's a big argument out there, and it's still a big argument out there, and there's the very divided one side and another with a little bit of gray area as to whether or not a spirit box is nothing more than a Ouija board. I am a proponent that it is absolutely nothing like a Ouija board, because I'm not putting my intentions into a spirit box. It's just a piece of electronics that I simply ask a question, and if a spirit's able to manipulate that device, then it can try and communicate back with me.
Right.
Whereas with the Ouija board, I'm holding onto the planchet. I am focusing my intention on there. And my mindset is I'm opening up a doorway that I want something to come through. Now I can ask for something in particular, but it's a subway. People don't understand that. It's the subway showing up. So whether your person that you want to talk to is on train 3, there's 2 other full train loads of people and entities coming through that are getting off before train 3.
100%.
So who the hell do you know? You never know what the hell's going on.
Yep.
So, and I can always turn a spirit box off, and I don't have to worry about any repercussions.
Yeah.
If I'm really engaged in a Ouija board session, and I have used a Ouija board myself, so I'm speaking from experience. If I'm really engaged in a Ouija board session, I just take it and put it in the box after I've got all kinds of activity, that session's not closed.
Yep.
That's an open pathway. That's an open doorway. Who the hell knows what else is going to come walking through there?
Yep.
So that's my 2 cents. for the second hour, I get excited about the Ouija board.
We both do.
I mean, I've seen so many cases of people innocently playing with it like it's some sort of toy, and then it wreaking havoc in their lives. You know, one of the first true demonic entities I went face to face with was because of a Ouija board. You know, walked down the hallway there was just nothing but a glowing, glistening, like the top of a bonfire. The top 5 feet of a bonfire with solid burning orange eyes. And it looked at me and it said, "What are you doing here? They're already mine."
Wow.
So, yeah, well, that's why we're here, because they're not yours, right?
Yeah.
You think they are, but they're not, you know, and that's where we're here to fight for them instead of letting you take everything over. So, anyway.
No Ouija boards.
No Ouija boards.
No.
All right. Where's my story? Give me 1 second. I had it up here. Oh, no. I was looking at Mike's. Where is that one I wanted to read you guys? All right. I'll do this one. I like this one. For the past, okay, so the title of this question was, "Has my ghost gone ghost on me?" For the past year, I've had an extremely active bedroom. Things falling off shelves, small items literally lying there untouched, doing a quick little jump in the air, strange computer malfunctions, things moving or shifting several inches right in front of me, statues being hurled halfway across the room, knocks, bangs, etc. You know, a spooky, noisy ghost. I was sick of not being believed, so I put up 2 cameras in my room in the hopes of getting this recorded. Well, it's been effing days, and it's like this poltergeist just disappeared. Absolutely nothing has happened. If it wasn't for the dents in my statues and the broken glass in my picture frames, I would be trying to convince myself that this was just my imagination. It definitely isn't. I've watched things move with my very own eyes, in quotes. Has anyone else ever had this kind of experience? Why do you think the activity has stopped?
Sometimes, in my experience, places like, okay, for an example, if we go through and do like a walkthrough of a location, we can have experiences just in the 15, 20 minutes that we walk through. But as soon as we put those cameras up, there's nothing. And it's almost like they want us to think that we're crazy or that they're just shy. It's really hard to say, but we've experienced where like there's lots of activity, and then as soon as we put something up to catch something, there's nothing.
I've had experiences, this was many years ago, with my ex-husband. His mother passed away in the home, and we lived there, and strange things started to happen. Things were moving. We would wake up at about 3:34 in the morning, which was the time she would get up every morning. She had been a farm wife, and she would, or you could hear the cupboard door open while you lay there in bed and listen. You'd hear the cupboard door shut. You'd hear the coffee cup being taken out, put onto the counter, and then you knew as if somebody was pouring coffee, and then they picked up the cup. So you could hear all those things happen. And it got to the point where I had heard it for so many nights in a row that I just got sick and tired of it, and I was going to go see what happened. And I went out there. Nothing's been moved. Nothing changed. So that was just so odd. In that situation, I believe that was his mother, and she was there probably in a residual situation, possibly. It was just that recorder going over and over. I don't know how to explain why they might stop doing it, but I have a feeling they want your attention, and so they might be trying you or testing you. I don't know. I mean, that's a good question.
I think they just honestly don't want to be caught. They're like, they know that there's something different, and they're like, oh, what are you doing with that? And they're playing shy. You know, I don't know. We don't know. They're just people, and people are silly, right? You know, you pull a camera up in front of somebody who hasn't taken their anxiety meds, they're going to be like,
right.
You know?
Yeah, I was on the same page on that answer. And I said, you know, one of the things that I would try to do if for this individual would be like to take my idea was like take a teddy bear and put a handy cam in it, you know, or just put a GoPro in it, and then just put it back where it was on the shelf and just forget about it.
Yep.
And then see if something like that would able to pick it up versus having two tripods set up with infrared lights, with camera lenses, and something in there going on, you know. Because I agree, and I don't know what it is about that, but I have and to say with walkthroughs, I've had a ton of experience and been like, this is going to be a great investigation, and then we get started and all the equipment's out, and I'm like, damn, what am I doing here? Hour 2, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? You know, hour 3, hour 4. All right, well, we got to do something to spark stuff up. Let's go get some provocative things and bring them in here, you know.
And then once you start packing up, it starts again.
Yeah, bring in a couple trigger objects, and whoever was hiding and shy is like, you're not bringing that in the house, and then they come running back out, and then they're, you know, now all of a sudden you got activity again. So, but
you know, that was actually one of the questions that I if there was time, I was going to ask, and that was if you thought that having a lot of equipment, like a lot of cameras and stuff, makes them like not want to come around or want to, because my team have tried an experiment both ways, where like we will be at a place for 2 days. The first day we have cameras up, and then the second day we don't, and just to see if that does anything to the activity, and it really didn't. But so I was just going to get your take on it, is if you've tried it either way, which do you think is going to work?
Honestly, when we do it, we go in and we do a sweep of the facility, right? And then we'll set up the equipment. We'll actually leave for a while, let the energy kind of settle down again, and then we'll go back in it very quietly and just kind of reintroduce ourselves. And we picked up on stuff, like even when we've left, like we have 8 security cameras that have night vision and stuff, and we picked up stuff on that. And there's we have like the Boo Boo Bear that lights up and REM pods. We've got, you know, all the fun stuff, but we've had a few things interact. Like when we've left, we've had things go off when we were setting up, which is like awesome. We're like, yeah, this is gonna be awesome. Then we get everything set up, and then they're like, oh well, we already played.
Right.
And then 2 hours later.
Right.
And they're like, oh, now we're going to play again. So they're fickle. It's like people. You know, they're just people. So
we always set down a couple of recorders as we're setting up.
Mhm.
Like when we first walk in the door, first thing I'll do is I'll take a recorder and set it down.
Yeah.
You know, and we've gotten EVPs of what are they doing here? You know, you can hear conversations going on, asking like, what are they doing here? Like, what is that?
Awesome.
You know, what are they doing? You know, who is that? What is that? Stuff like that. So there's intelligent entities that are at that location, and they're curious who you are, which I think that's always the case, unless you've been to a place enough times that you would be like family. Like there's a cemetery I go to that I've been to probably 200 times. Wow, setting stuff off. There's a cemetery I go to that I've been to a couple hundred times, and I can go there and have my recorder going, and I will get hi Dave or hey Dave, just because I've been there so many times that whoever happens to be there or happens to be there at that time, we probably have run into each other a couple different times.
Yep.
You know,
they're comfortable with you.
right? Exactly. They're comfortable with my energy. They're comfortable with the reason why I'm there. You know, I'm comfortable being there. I'm comfortable with them, and it's just this great, you know, great relationship that's going on, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I'm just curious what you guys thought on that.
Did you guys tap your foot? Okay, we're hearing weird things going on in this room, so just FYI, we just heard this knocking noise
Or footsteps.
Something. Yeah. So very active location we're at. I just want to say that, you know, especially the basement. But yeah.
Well, I mean, they can hear what we're talking about. So
Yeah.
we're talking
They
about
can
it.
hear what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like,
You know,
they're trying to
So-
put their 2
If I
cents.
see a glass of wine fly over the top of your head, I'm going to be impressed because that's going to beat
I'm
that's
not
gonna-
because you can't be wasting the wine, man.
that's going to beat the Chip Coffee interview when we actually had a voice come on during the middle of our interview and start talking. So
So
there's my hold on. There's my challenge for the spirits that are at the winery. That's my challenge to the spirits at the winery. In the next 28 minutes, I would like to see a glass of wine levitate.
Oh, wow.
Don't say no. You got to send positive energy that way. Don't say no.
I'm not saying no to that. I'm saying is that I have a different challenge that may be a little easier. I would like to hear their names spoken into the microphone.
But you never get names, so that's why you're asking for that.
That's exactly why I'm asking for that.
So,
But I just wanted to throw in here that you know, I'm with Dave and you guys is like the hidden type like of equipment, or especially like a recorder, seems to always get the most like EVPs. The very first home investigation that I ever did, that's exactly what I walked in, and I just kind of subtly placed a recorder on the landing because they had a foyer, and then you know, the stairs that went up, because it was a split level. Just kind of placed it there and just kept walking up the stairs and never touched it again the whole rest of the night. And I could hear, you know, a spirit being like, you know, it's down on the dresser, meaning we had put a recorder down on the dresser in one of the bedrooms. Another one, you know, said somebody go and call him an asshole. You know, so I mean, it's and that was one of probably the most like EVPs on one recorder during an investigation that I've had. So I mean, do you think that it's not only really like about us setting up equipment and whatnot, but just what they're aware of? Like maybe they just don't want to give you that satisfaction or that proof that they are there.
I think it's some of both, honestly, because like with the Boo Boo Bear, especially with that one, we have a music box too that they always seem like they like to play with that. You know, it's interactive a little bit. But yeah, as far as like the EMF detector or like the EVPs and stuff like that, yeah, I think those are more, if they don't know that they're there and they're aware of them, I think you get more interaction with that. But like with the bear and that music box that we have, they like those things. Almost every place, every location we've gone to, it's interacted in some way. Sometimes intensely, sometimes it's just a real subtle, but
Is that the music box that has the proximity detector built into it?
Yep, it's a little coffin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I like those too. I think those, I don't have one, but I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah. Yeah, we picked up on, we did an investigation at Sentinel Butte Hospital's abandoned hospital. It was in the 1950s, I believe.
No, the hospital was built in like 1883.
But it was abandoned.
But it was abandoned. Oh, yep, it was abandoned like in the 50s, and then it was an antique store, and it was a private residence at one point.
Wow, that's Brenda running.
The joys of being diabetic.
Yeah. But that location is really unique because late 1800s, it was the hospital. There's actually the railroad that goes right in front of it, and there's a sidewalk that leads up to the hospital. So the night that we investigated there, we had a lot of residual with that music box going off. And then Nani has one of the headsets that has the live EVP, which we had it just like tucked on the step. Music box was on one of the shelves, and the REM pod was in the nurse's room, and that they would both go off. They'd hear footsteps on the live EVP, and then the boo-boo bear at the bottom of the stairs would go off. So it was just like the nurse was coming to check on the different rooms and hitting all of those things. It was
crazy.
It was an intense night. When we do investigations too, we try and go live as often as we can, so then people can interact and experience what we're doing. If sometimes we're bored, as you guys know, it gets boring sometimes. We're like, did you make those cookies this weekend? No. Did you do your laundry yet? Me either. You know, we're just talking,
right,
normal stuff. But if somebody's watching along with us and they're like, you guys missed the shadow, we'll try and go and interact with it and kind of catch a rewind and see what you guys found. So,
that brings up a great point, what you were just talking about, but in a different way, is that, and I've noticed this, and I know Mike has too, and some of our other friends, is that some of the best responses and interaction you get is when you're just having a normal conversation about normal everyday things and you're not really asking any questions.
Yep.
Like if you could say, man, I love Tuesdays because it's spaghetti night and my wife makes the absolutely best spaghetti, and then you pause and you'll get a guy says, mine did too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like something like that, which when you go back and review it, you've got this intelligent spirit that was right there in close proximity to you that is coming through and agreeing with you and was hanging out with you, as opposed to going in there. And I think a lot, and I would like to see this not be the case, but I think regretfully, with the fact that a lot of people that are starting off in the field, they don't feel they know what to do. So they always try to, like, hey, when did you die? How did you die? Who's the president? What year is it? Just all these question after question after question after question. And I've said it 100 times or 100,000 times. When I'm dead and gone, I don't plan on being around anymore. But if for some reason I come back and visit my daughters or something like that, or if Mike's still alive, I'm going to come mess with Mike. But like when he's on an investigation, like he's going to ask all these like question. I'm not going to respond. I would not respond to that if I were in a situation like that. I'd be like, seriously. Or you would hear me say something like this. Seriously, is that the best you effing have? That would be the EVP they would get.
Yeah.
And I would just walk out. I would just like, I'm out of here. And I would just go to, Alaska or the Greek Isles or someplace like that and hang out for a while. But your turn on questions, Mikey.
Well, I was going to read the next story.
Yeah, story. Go ahead. That's what I meant.
All
story, question.
Gotcha. All right. I'm interested to see kind of your take on it. And I really, really hope you know about this topic, because I don't think it's as mainstream as maybe I think it is. But we'll see. So here's the title. I'm pretty sure I saw the Hat Man. So here's what they write. So this was about a month ago, just before my wife and I moved into our new house. I had just gotten off work and picked up my son from the babysitter. We were just about home, driving through the neighborhood, when I glanced over at a tree, and for a split second, I swear on everything holy, I saw a shadow person standing right by the tree. It felt weird because somehow I could tell it was looking at me. I did a quick double take, but it was gone. What threw me off the most was the fact that it was wearing a hat. Now, I've seen a few shadow people in my days, from going to haunted cemeteries or abandoned buildings, but this was different. This one had a hat. It looked like a mix between a top hat and a fedora. I shook it off, drove home, told my wife what I saw, and thought nothing of it. Later that night, though, I saw him in my dreams. I don't remember the rest of the dream, but I do remember coming in through the garage, turning around, and seeing him standing there in the middle of my garage watching me. I froze, fell to the ground, and watched in silent terror as he walked towards me, bent down on one knee, and placed his hand on the center of my back. That's when I was shaken awake by my wife because I was doing the breathing thing again, which means hyperventilating. For about 3 or 4 days afterwards, I could feel a white hot cold spot on my back right where he touched my back in the dream. Has anyone ever encountered something like this?
I have not, but I know of the Hat Man.
My grandfather actually had experience with the Hat Man. His house was very active as we were growing up. All kinds of stuff going on. But he was in his bed at the time. He happened to roll over to his left side, looked at his clock, and as he looked back towards his door, there was a man dressed exactly how the atypical Hat Man is. Yep. And he was basically just looking at the clock where my grandfather had just looked. And that's all it did. He just kind of stood there, looked at the clock, and my grandfather was like, leave me alone, I'm going to sleep. And he just rolled over and went back to sleep. So
that's what you got to love for true skeptics, right? Like they're just like, you see something like that in the room and you're like, whatever. And you just roll back over, and 30 seconds later, you're right back into your dream state, and then, dreaming of bunnies and, spring fields and whatever else, people dream about.
He was a farmer, so probably farmer or Vegas.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. The 1 week where what happened in Vegas stayed in Vegas, and the rest of the year he was thinking about the crops and the cattle, and yeah. Good man.
Did have an experience at the Tobby Museum of Art, which is next door, as I had mentioned earlier. Whether it was the Hat Man or if it was maybe residual energy from the banker. The building was originally an opera house. The upper level was an opera house. Boris Karloff actually acted in there for a year, if you guys are familiar with old black and white horror movies.
Yep.
He actually acted in there. The main level was a hardware store, and the basement was barbershop, a men's spa, hot tub bath area place. It burnt down in the 1920s, and then it was turned into First National Bank, and it was the bank up until I think the 60s. The Tobby Museum was taken over and turned into an art gallery in the 90s. So I'm an art teacher by muggle job, if you want to call it. I also do Reiki and other things, but I was teaching on a Monday night. The gallery's not open on a Monday night. I had 2 little girls whose parents warned me, hey, we're going to be picking up the girls a little bit late. Just, keep an eye on. And I was like, oh, don't worry about being late. I'll put them to work. Ha, ha, ha. So I was watching the front door. There's a staircase that comes down from the main door. The girls were sitting to my right, and I hear the jingle on the door, somebody coming in. I see them coming down the flight of the stairs. I look up. They hit the landing before the last final steps. This man is as solid as you and I. He had on a fedora hat, long trench coat. It looked like he looked directly at me into the classroom. And I was like, okay, girls, somebody's here. They get up. They start walking towards me. The man steps down, and he takes a right and step towards us. Of course, Mama Bear's popping in because who's this stranger danger in the art gallery? I'm going to have to throw down with somebody. So the girls are like, who's that man? Who's that man? And they're like, I'm like, girls, stay in here. I'm going to go have to tell this guy to get up. I'm basically walking aggressively, behind him. I was like, excuse me, sir, we're closed for the day. You need to get out. What can I help you with? And he turned the next corner. Well, I was like, well, I'm going to cut him off. As soon as I tried to cut him off on the next wall, he wasn't there. And of course, I tried looking through the other rooms or on the other side. He was not there whatsoever. We thought possibly that it was residual energy from the banker, possibly looking at the night deposit box. because the back room has a night deposit box in it. But it could have been an encounter with the Hat Man as well. I don't really know a whole lot about the mythology behind the Hat Man. I've heard some people say he's a negative presence. Sometimes I just hear that he's just kind of there. So, but that was an intense experience with that one. So.
Yeah, well, especially since you saw him, like we're seeing each other right now. I mean, that's so rare to see an apparition in full Technicolor, I guess, for lack of a better term.
As solid as you and I. And like I said, I chased him. I thought he was a man. Well, he was, but he wasn't listening to me, and I was gonna have to throw down with him.
You said he looked right at you though?
I don't know if he made.
Or did he just look kind of in the general direction of the room you're in?
General direction, and then he took an immediate right. Yeah. And that's when I was like, girls, stay in the classroom. I'm going to go have to beat somebody up. Don't ever say that to them because.
4 feet, 11 inches of badass coming, buddy.
Hey, I was just thinking that.
We're little, but we're tough.
Why did I see like the Tasmanian devil spinning up? You're in trouble now, buddy.
That's right. We'll kick you in the shin.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's beautiful.
So, little L, Brenda, what about you?
I have nothing to say. I have no idea. So never saw a man in black hat or any kind of hat.
No, I have not experienced that. No.
Yeah, I never have either. I find it a fascinating topic. I'm kind of surprised it didn't, like, he never came to visit me with all the other crap that went on in my childhood, but he never did. But I find it a fascinating topic that there's an entity out there that has been seen tens of thousands of times. It can't be everybody's imagination envisioning the exact same thing, right? There's some legitimacy to it. You know, anything with cryptozoological too, or UFOs, right? Some of it is going to be, could be the person's state of mind, could be misidentification, could be that individual's medication. It could be a lot of different things. But when you've got people over time reporting the exact same thing over and over and over again, there's legitimacy there in one of those stories. So they're obviously seeing something. You know, it's the same thing with the Hat Man. People are seeing something. And the fact that he shows up and then just vanishes, but he's wearing the same outfit. You know, we did a couple shows on him. I think my personal thought is I think he is a watcher, and I think this is what I think. I think he visits kids. I think he's a watcher, but he's not a watcher for good. He's a watcher for the dark side, let's say. And that if a child has abilities and he sees those abilities being a future threat to negative forces, then he will interfere and try to dissuade or divert that child from going down the path they would have followed had he not been involved.
That makes sense to me. Yeah. We were contacted by somebody, I don't know who they were, I think on the East Coast somewhere, but they were trying to do a documentary on the Hat Man. And they had us contact a girl who was based out of Bismarck. And she had been followed by this Hat Man since she was a child. And it seemed like he was a protector in some ways, but also brought some very dark things to her too. But we kind of lost contact with her about a year ago, I think, and she just kind of stopped contacting us back. So.
Well, hopefully nothing bad happened in that one.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. I got a perfect ending for us. All right. Has anyone else noticed a guiding force? I feel this constant force or feeling of what I'm supposed to do, say, and how I'm supposed to do it. It could be anything from picking up my phone at a certain time to doing something like going to a certain place or talking to certain people. When I follow what I'm supposed to do, things always work out and there aren't any bad consequences. However, when I do something else, everything goes to shit. It's been beyond some gut feeling, and it has nothing to do with morality. Do either of you experience it? What exactly is it? So this brought up a really great conversation with the guest that we had on a couple of weeks ago. So I'm curious whether for you guys, I'll pose the question, which is basically just reiterating what was there. Do you think that your life is laid on a path that you're following, or do you think that everything you do is your own free will?
Good question.
Well, of course it is. That's why we're ending on it.
I was like, wait, I'm gonna let Brenda speak this one.
I think it's a little bit of both. For me anyway, I have my feeling. As far as the guiding force that they're relating to, absolutely 100%. I've had a guiding force in my life. There's many times I'll look at the phone and it happened today, and it'll be 11:11. And I connect with those numbers, and they happen. Literally every day I'm looking at the phone or at the clock, and those numbers come up constantly. I'll wake up in the middle of the night, it'll be 11:11. So I know there's a connection there somehow.
Do you know what those are? I don't want to. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do you know
No,
what
you're
those
good.
are?
Yeah, I want to say that they relate to the angel numbers, that
Right.
it's a sentiment that you're on the right path and just keep doing what you're doing.
New beginnings.
And so I try to stay on that, but gosh.
A little L.
Little L.
Yeah. I think that everybody does have somebody to help them guide them through life. I think everybody has them. It's just some people listen, some people don't, obviously. But I don't know. I guess I felt like that since I was little, that I've had someone always trying to tell me the right path and the wrong path. But I mean, honestly, I've done both. Just saying. I know. But I do feel like there is somebody watching out for us in
Spirit guide or
yeah, I do feel like there is something. Some people are, just like I said, I feel like I noticed it when I was younger, but there's some people that obviously don't listen. They've gone down the wrong path. But for
Well,
me,
here's a good question for you then. Since you said, you've listened and then at other times you haven't. So on the times that you haven't, were there consequences that made you stop and say, yeah, that was dumb. I should have taken the other thing that I thought about, or I should have done the other thing that I thought about.
yeah.
And then when you're doing the right thing, do you feel rewarded and there's no bad consequences? Do you feel somehow either personally rewarded, spiritually, feel happy? I mean, I don't know, what your belief system is, but do you feel good inside that you made the right choice when you think you're following the right path?
Yeah, I think I do. I do feel there's times where I'm like, I just did a good thing, and I'm like, good for me. So yeah, I guess I can say that I have felt where I'm like, happy, or, spiritually, I'm like, type of thing. But yeah, I would say for me, yes. I definitely feel that good energy, I would say, right? Good
Right.
aura.
Good aura, right?
Yeah.
Energy.
Steph?
Me? Who's speaking in?
She's last.
She's last. I think it's a bit of both too. But there's been instances where I feel like that I really am doing the right thing, and then everything just goes to shit. And I'm like, well, what was that for? Like, I thought I was doing the right thing. And but then I always feel like that I get back up on my horse, and when I'm presented with like a choice or whatever, I usually just go with my gut feeling, because to be honest, like, my gut feelings have never let me down. Like, whether it's like with people or situations or what have you, I just call it my gut feeling. But there has been times where, like, I don't have a bad gut feeling, like I like I said, and I just kind of choose which one I think is best. But sometimes I pay for it. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's not so bad, but I'm still not happy. But yeah, I do believe in spirit guides and stuff like that. And sometimes I don't think they know what they're doing quite yet either. But yeah, I do believe in that kind of stuff too.
I think a lot of
That's a good default. Just blame it on your spirit guides.
yeah.
You're like, you guys must have been out a little late last night because that advice you gave me earlier today sucked. So, just saying. Yeah.
I think a lot of it's intuition too, just kind of having that knowing of knowing. You know, you're expecting that, whether you're expecting that phone call or not, and you know that all of a sudden your grandmother's going to call, you know, and you pick up the phone and it's them on the other line. So, yeah, we definitely have divine guidance in some means, whether it's loved ones that have passed or spirit guides or just protective spirits on the other end, archangels, whatever you want to call them. I definitely feel that we have guidance in some way.
Okay.
I agree. So then it goes to the age-old question: is there behind the scenes? Is there this great, for lack of a better description of this, you know, God versus the devil, and everybody's pulling at strings, and we're the string, and we're the things that are in the middle getting pulled.
It's the puppet.
Right? Yeah, we're the puppets, and it's a great game of chess that's being played, and we're the chess pieces.
Uh-oh. I was just like, I'm going to lead you to the religious person.
I just threw that out there because that's my background. That, you know, you can look at it however you want to look at it, but is there, because you kind of alluded to it when you said there's all these guiding forces that are behind us, and we know right from wrong, and there's things that they're pulling us one way or pulling us another way. So what is that mystical, magical thing in the cloud behind us that's, you know, that's pulling us?
Helping guide us and kind of sending us in that direction. It is our choice whether or not we follow the positive or the negative is definitely true.
Because that's where free will comes in. Obviously.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, as far as calling him God or Buddha or Jesus, whoever, we're all interconnected.
Right.
We're all praying to that higher power, that love and light, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And that's our focus with our team. We are out there to just spread that love and light as much as we can and help people get out of that darkness, I guess.
Works for me. No wine glass, by the way. I didn't see a wine glass, so.
No.
There it is.
Yeah, but you're probably not going to toss it behind you.
There we go.
That's all right. I saw it levitate, so that's all that matters.
Well, if you guys happen to travel to Minot, we do have a lot of connections with all the downtown businesses and stuff. So we'd love to host you guys down here if you guys want to come hang out with us in the dark.
Absolutely. I would love to. I mean, it sounds like you guys have a great, I don't want to use the term cesspool because that sounds bad. But you've got this great like mixture of all this different stuff historically that's been happening. You know, you've got the Air Force Base there. You've got the Minutemen silos there. You've got, in my opinion, UFO. You know, if the Minutemen silos are there, obviously, and they are, you know, there's something watching out for our nuclear armaments. You know, so you've got that presence. You've got all this other stuff going on. You've got these tunnels, speakeasies, bootlegging, prostitution, opium dens. Yeah. I mean, you guys are on a roll for a little tiny town. Plus, I'd love to come see the Swedish, what's the name of it? It's in the park. I think it's in Oak Park, right? The school office, the great big wooden Swedish church.
And the Dollar Horse.
Yeah, yes. I would love to see that because that's absolutely beautiful.
That is. It's a gorgeous little park.
Wasn't the Midsummer
Festival was last weekend? Yeah, that's always a good.
Like a huge bonfire at that park.
Maypole dancing and.
Wow. Nice. So
Yeah, movie and stuff. Yeah.
To give it back to the earth spirits.
Yep.
for the 40 people who live in North Dakota, if they
That was Mike.
You know,
That was Mike. I'm just throwing it out there. That was not
We're
Dave.
gonna watch it.
Dave is the nice of the two. Mike, that was
that
Mike.
was 100% me. I take it. So, anybody who is listening who wants to contact you, whether it's for help, whether it's for advice, for whatever it is you can do for them, what is the best way for them to contact you?
Can contact us through Facebook or Instagram as well. We have Stephanie and I both have emails, PIND Stephanie at Gmail or PIND Wendy at Gmail as well.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies, for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
It's been yeah, I enjoyed every second of it, and I'm sure it won't be too long before maybe we'll have you back and we'll talk about especially your book. That's the Andy's book that's coming out with that, and maybe with him with you. So it's definitely
or after the screening too, because you got that screening coming up in September.
Yep. That'll be October 15th.
October, okay.
Yeah.
So sometime after that too, kind of touch base with you and see how your screening went and how it was received. And
Yeah, we've got a lot of pretty good potential investigations coming up in the next couple. We always try and do bigger away from Minot investigations during the summer because you never know, we could have a blizzard and it's hard to do that in the middle of winter. But
we live in Minnesota. It's not any worse where you are than where we are. So
it's a little worse. It's a little worse for them.
Well, you got the open prairie thing, right? Where you got to like shut your roads down and stuff with the gates, and you can't travel. Yeah, all right. We don't have that.
We have that 4-foot snowstorm in March. So
I've seen it snow in July.
Yes, it has snowed in July here.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing living there?
Because it's spooky.
Snow in July. Oh my God. It is spooky sounding. We'll see if it's spooky when I get up there.
It's like their own little pool of the paranormal.
That's right.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's Mother Nature just creating this. Nobody wants to go here, so we're only going to like create this perfect storm for the people that are there.
Well, and they say the weather keeps the riffraff out. So
there you go.
Or
if that were the case, I would say I don't believe that because there's a lot of places in Minneapolis that are, I won't. I'll just leave it at that.
Again, thank you, ladies, for coming on. Really appreciate it. That will do it for us here tonight. Wish everybody stay healthy, stay safe. We want to see you back here for an all new episode next week. Until then, have a great night.
Thank you. Bye.